and they bring Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as witness. They write the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on their currency bills. They write the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on their flags. وَإِذَا تَوَلَّى سَعَى فِي الْأَرْضِ. Their highest effort was to لِيُفْسِدَ فِيهَا, to create destruction. And this will surprise you how accurate the Holy Quran is. وَيُهْلِكَ الْحَرْثَ وَالنَّسْلِ. Their highest efforts was to destroy the land and to commit genocide. Look at the word. وَالنَّسْلِ. Nasl means your progeny. If they don't kill them, they poison their spirits. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Dear brothers and sisters, Quranic journey. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So it's been 2 months since we have seen the war in Gaza, and the most graphic movies with all their equipments and all their actors and all their makeup and skills cannot match what we have been seeing in Gaza. The videos are so graphic, the pictures are so graphic, and it's all live. This is not the height of atrocity. The height of atrocity is that the enemy gets to select any sort of weapon that they want to use to kill innocent children and people. So they use whatever they want in front of the entire world when the cameras are live. And they can do it, and they do it. They can select to destroy a house. First, they would steal the stuff that is belonging to the owners of the houses. They steal it. They destroy the houses. They kill the woman, children, and innocent man. They attack the hospitals. It's a free world for them to do anything they want. And then, this is not the height of atrocity. The height of atrocity is that if we want to condemn them, we have to be selective in the words that we are using. So they're not restricted in selecting their weapons for killing the innocent people, but we are restricted in selecting the words that we want to use for condemning them. And if we use inappropriate words, all kind of problems are going to be created for us. The least is that we're going to get shadow banned. This video is not going to be promoted. Message is not going to be spread. This is the height of injustice. How did we get here? Let me show you another side of this story. So, okay, fine. This is the work of enemy. Enemy is doing this. The whole world is with them. Even though if they're doing protests and stuff, at the end of the day, they have no choice but to be with them. But look at the Muslim world. The Muslim world is made up of 3 big groups: the scholars, the leaders, and the common public. The leaders are the kind of leaders we have are the kind that when it's time to attack a Muslim country, let's just say if they want to attack Yemen, if they want to attack some other Muslim country, or they want to do propaganda against some other Muslim country, they're just so keen and they're so active and they're so upfront. But when it's time to condemn an enemy that is killing our Muslim brothers and sisters, they are all silent. This is not the height of atrocity. Not that they're just silent, but they're supporting the enemy. They still have their business ties with the enemy. It's been 50 days since children are being killed. They're still having their ties with the enemy, okay? The second group, the scholars. We have ended up having the kind of scholars who are so active when it comes to give fatwa for jihad against a Muslim country. They're so active when they're trying to create animosity amongst the Muslims themselves. They'll tell you that this sect is kafir, that sect is kafir. You could kill them, you could destroy their houses. But when it comes to talking about the enemy that's killing innocent children and women, they're quiet. They don't say anything. This is not the height of atrocity. Not that they're just quiet, but they will discourage you from doing whatever it is, whatever it is that you could do to fight the enemy. They'll tell you boycott is haram. I have videos I can show you. There's a whole big group of scholars that is trying to impose its ideology on the entire ummah and has caused the greatest fasad in the ummah. They say that the boycott of Israeli products is haram. They say protesting is haram. There was a move in which people were trying to fast one day for Gaza so then they could pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They said it's haram. Everything that is useful and actually shows its result, they say it's haram. You just have to sit there and pray. And some of them even condemn, the people in Palestine themselves. How did we end up with these kind of scholars? And the ummah, the kind of ummah we have today, not that just, first of all, they cannot do anything. How much my heart is bleeding right now, no matter how much I'm upset, no matter how much I'm, shocked by what I'm seeing, yet I'm not able to take a single step. It's not possible for me to actively do anything. And this is not the height of atrocity. The height of atrocity is the same ummah. If the same thing starts happening to them, they will not going to be able to defend themselves. What happened? How did we end up with this sort of ummah, this sort of scholars, this sort of leaders? I want to ask you a question. Is this Islam? Do you think in your heart where the iman has to come out from, do you think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made a religion for which the leaders has to be the kind of leaders that we have, and the scholars have to be the kind of scholars that we have, and the ummah has to be like this? Do you think this would be a religion in which if you're a Muslim and your brothers and sisters are being killed, then your leaders will still support the enemy, your scholars will keep quiet and discourage you from doing anything, and you're supposed to sit there and enjoy your life without being worried about anything? And 20,000 of your brothers and sisters are killed in front of you, live on camera. You know their enemy. Do you think this is Islam? Okay, if you think this is Islam, go ahead. If you want to keep sleeping, if you want to continue your comfortable sleep, continue, please. Trust me, there will be no time when the entire ummah will have consensus of something being right and something being wrong. The signs will be shown to you, and it will be up to you if you want to open your eyes or if you want to keep them closed. Nobody's going to force you. This is the test. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will show you the signs. He'll say, look, I showed you the sign. You were supposed to listen to me. You were supposed to hold on to my book and nothing else. You were not supposed to blindly follow your own made-up leaders and your own made-up scholars and forget about my book. Multiple times in the Holy Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that there were scholars at the time of prophets who were the worst enemies of prophets alayhimus salam. So how can we expect that we have not ended up with these kind of scholars and these kind of Muslim ummah? What makes us think that we're doing everything right and whatever is happening in Palestine is just the fault of the enemy and not us? There's definitely somewhere where we went completely wrong. Now I'm going to recite a few verses from the Holy Quran to tell you that how clearly Quran has been always telling us about the reality of this world. This is so we reflect on these verses and we understand how clear Quran is. By the way, let me ask you one thing. There's a verse in the Holy Quran that says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Ya ayyuhan nasu qad ja'atkum maw'idatun min rabbikum. First of all, the audience is the entire humans. Okay, it's not a specific group of Muslims or Muslims. قَدْ جَاءَتْكُمْ مَوْعِظَةٌ مِّن رَبِّكُمْ. Good words, nasiha, maw'idah has come to you from your Lord. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is expecting that his book is going to have an effect on the entire humans, not just Muslims. So this means we as Muslims must have a personal connection with the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then he says, وَالشِّفَاءٌ لِمَا فِي الصُّدُورِ. For the illnesses and diseases of your soul and heart, this book has shifa. Tell me, if you don't go to the doctor himself personally, is it possible for your brother to go to the doctor on your behalf and get the perfect treatment? No. How can you not personally go to the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which has shifa for you, and expect to get shifa of heart. And as long as we don't get shifa of heart collectively as an ummah, inna Allah la yughayyiru ma biqawmin hatta yughayyiru ma bi anfusihim. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not going to change it until we change it about ourselves. In tansurullaha yansurkum wa yuthabbit aqdamakum. If you help Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He will help you. These are the laws of the Holy Quran. Nowhere Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that you have to follow a group of people blindly. Even if they take you to hell, you have to go to hell with them. Even if they make you to keep quiet while your brothers and sisters are being killed, you have to stay quiet. And this happened previously. The Ummah made the same mistake. And in the history we have how Kaaba was destroyed by the same kind of rulers. How the Masjid al-Nabawi was sieged by the same kind of rulers, and how the grandson of Holy Prophet ﷺ was killed by the same kind of rulers. This is a continuation. You could be very superficial. You could just look at what's happening in Palestine and be like, oh, okay, I hope this resolves. But I think this deserves way more than just a superficial look. Their blood, their efforts, what Palestinians are doing must have a greater effect than you just looking at things superficially. It must have an effect that you look deep down into the story, into what's been happening. How did we make it here? This is unbelievable what's happening. This is the same world where people would say, where humans were claiming the rights for everything. We're having rights for kids, for women. We're having rights for animals. We were having such high talks of everything. Our values were supposedly so great. And what happened? All of a sudden, 20,000 innocent people are killed and everybody is quiet? Let me read some verses from Quran for you. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم Surah Al-Baqarah, verse number 204. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يُعْجِبُكَ قَوْلُهُ فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا. Amongst the people, there's a group whose words, whose opinion, whose views on this world is gonna impress you. You're gonna be impressed when you're gonna hear them. They talk so impressively. They show themselves as if they have such high standards and values and high lifestyle for this world. And when you look at them, you start doubting yourself and you just get impressed by them. وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يُعْجِبُكَ قَوْلُهُ فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا. They will just make you wonder when they talk, when they present their opinion, when they present their views, when they talk, they're going to make you wonder that how great these people are. They're going to impress you. وَيُشْهِدُ اللَّهِ عَلَى مَا فِي قَلْبِهِ. And they bring Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not that they just talk impressively, but they also bring Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as witness to what's in their hearts, that our intentions are clean, we are doing things for the betterment, and they bring Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as witness. They write the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on their currency bills. They write the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on their flags. But what is the reality of these people? What does Quran tell us about these people? So these impressive people who bring Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as witness for their purity of their intentions, وَهُوَ أَلَدُّ الْخِصَامِ. These are the most violent, most hostile of enemies. These are the most hostile and violent enemies of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is strange. They use the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as witness what's in their heart. Their talk impresses you, their products impresses you, their lifestyle just makes you wonder. But in reality, they're the most hostile, ugliest of people when it comes to their deeds. So what do? وَإِذَا تَوَلَّى. The next verse says, when they turn back and when they get authority and when they get power, سَعَى فِي الْأَرْضِ. Their highest efforts in the earth is for what? لِيُفْسِدَ فِيهَا. To cause destruction. The same people who impressed you, who made you adopt their lifestyle, who made you have doubts about your own teachings, You adopted their Halloween, you adopted to their Christmas, you adopted to their birthday celebrations, you adopted to their, I don't know, Valentine's Day. Whatever they taught you, you start taking it. You adopted their way of clothing, you adopted their way of having no morals and no shame. And now you saw that when they turned back, when you give them authority, when you gave them power, when you made them your Lord, when you allowed them to have an influence upon you, وَإِذَا تَوَلَّى سَعَى فِي الْأَرْضِ, their highest effort was to لِيُفْسِدَ فِيهَا, to create destruction. And this will surprise you how accurate the Holy Quran is. وَيُهْلِكَ الْحَرْثَ وَالنَّسْلِ, and their highest effort was to destroy the land. Their highest efforts was to destroy the land and to commit genocide. Look at the word. وَالنَّسْلِ. Nasl means your progeny. Their highest efforts was to create destruction and destroy the lands and the progeny. This means genocide. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had told you from the beginning, look, if you follow these people who talk nicely with a smile, they'll tell you their morals, they'll tell you that, look, we care about women more than you, we care about children more than you, we are even considering the rights for LGBT and transgender, everything, look how amazing we are. And then you start doubting yourself and you get impressed by them, and slowly they find their way in your soul. And when they have the authority, when they have the power, وَإِذَا تَوَلَّى سَعَى فِي الْأَرْضِ, their highest efforts is to لِيُفْسِدَ فِيهَا, to cause destruction, وَيُهْلِكَ الْحَرْثَ وَالنَّسْلِ, and they destroy the lands and they destroy the generations. If they don't kill them, they poison their spirits. They make an ummah from Muslims that is not capable of anything. Wallahu la yuhibbul fasad. Remember, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you one sign by which you can tell who these people are. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't like fasad. So whoever does fasad, even if it's in the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whoever tries to create disunity amongst the ummah, that's not from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wallahu la yuhibbul fasad. There's one more sign to these people. وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُ اتَّقِ اللَّهَ, when you tell them, okay, you have such high morals, you're so impressive, your character is so high, why don't you ittaq Allah? Why don't you consider Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in your deeds? And why don't you do things that pleases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and stop doing things that are not okay for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Why don't you stop the things Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has forbidden us from? Why don't you adopt the Islamic culture? Why don't you have taqwa in your heart? Why don't you stop the different dance and concerts and music and all this stuff and all the shamelessness that is being promoted by your channels, by your routes that you have created? Why don't you stop them? They say, no, أخذته العزة بالإثم. They say, what? You're telling us about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His ways? We're beyond that. Yes, we have Him in our heart, but our actions, we do things that are beyond what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has recommended. You do that. They will put finger on our capital punishment. They will put finger on when we have to chop the thief's hands, and they will say that we're way beyond this. What we do is, if someone murders someone in our community, in our society, we don't kill them, we put them in prison. We imprison them for lifetime. Oh, you who would imprison your murderers for a lifetime and not kill them, according to the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is recommended. What happens when 20,000 innocent people are killed? How you're so quiet? Why are you such hypocrites? So when you tell them about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and taking the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, أَخَذَتْهُ الْعِزَّةُ بِالْإِثْمِ, and ego comes in the middle. Arrogance kicks in and he avoids the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَحَسْبُهُ جَهَنَّمْ وَلَبِئْسَ الْمِهَادِ. These are the people whose end is in the hellfire, and that's the worst place to be. So look, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has always told us about being careful of those who use his name, who show as if they have high morals, who show as if they have a very impressive talk, but in reality, their deeds are the ugliest of deeds, and their faces are the most dangerous faces, most hostile people on this earth. These are the ones who cause destruction. These are the ones who cause genocide. Now, let's take something home. What do? The first thing we have to do to be able to free ourselves from anyone other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is to cling on to His book. Now, how do we cling on to His book? This is the least you could do. You could promise to yourself that no 24 hours of your day, no 24 hours of your life are going to pass by without you opening the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at least for a minute. Open the book of Allah subhanahu. If you're in office, if you're somewhere else, open your phone, take the application out, look at the Holy Quran, just read few words. Just read few words and its translation and ponder upon them. This is how it starts. Your 24 hours pass without you opening the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala once, something that you claim that you need guidance from. This is the biggest atrocity. This is where it all starts from. When you don't make a personal connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you allow others to come in the middle and they hijack your system. And then you give extra authority to them. And وَإِذَا تَوَلَّى سَعَى فِي الْأَرْضِ لِيُفْسِدَ فِيهَا. And this is so clear. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us from being unjust to ourselves. رَبَّنَا ظَلَمْنَا أَنفُسَنَا وَإِن لَمْ تَغْفِرْ لَنَا وَتَرْحَمْنَا لَنَكُونَنَّ مِنَ الْخَاسِرِينَ. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give victory to our Palestinian brothers and sisters and destroys their enemy. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fill our hearts with the light of the Holy Quran. Jazakumullah Khair. Fi amanillah.